Joining us now is Dr. Eric Loeb, an associate professor of politics and international relations at Florida International University. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thanks for having me. Good morning.
So we just had some of the setup of what has occurred, but President Trump just a few moments ago was posting on Truth Social saying, keep oil prices down. I'm watching. You're playing into the hand of the enemy. Don't do it. Isn't it inevitable that if Iran closes the Strait of Hormuz, that the global oil supply will be impacted and prices will likely go up?
Well, yes, this is an option that Iran has been discussing for a while since it's been under attack by Israel and now the United States, and particularly if the United States got involved, which we saw this weekend. Iran has not, or at least the supreme leader, the highest level of the leadership, has not yet approved that. But if it were to happen, analysts expect that oil prices would inevitably increase. They've already increased by 10% or so since Israel struck Iran on June 13th. And as a response, President Trump or others are trying to lean on U.S. allies and partners and even domestic producers in the United States to increase oil production to offset that outcome. But again, the question is, could they do it quickly enough to be effective in that respect?
Right. And what about the next step as far as negotiations, if there is a next step? Iran's foreign minister has said it's not the time for diplomacy now. Iran has even said that it feels deceived in the way President Trump said that he was taking 2 weeks to decide, and then the strikes came right after that. Is there any way that Iran still will agree to come to the table and talk?
Well, that's really an open question. And if we look at the statements by the Iranian foreign minister and others, the position of Iran, even before the U.S. got involved, was that they would not negotiate until Israeli attacks against Iran have ceased. And we see them continue today. And now, as you suggested, trust between the United States and Iran have further deteriorated. And given the U.S.'s involvement over the weekend and the Iranian foreign minister saying that it will not negotiate with the United States until after it retaliates, which could further escalate the situation. So really, right now, the prospects of diplomacy and negotiation are very dim.
What do we see as Israel's long-term goal, getting the U.S. involved here?
Well, it hasn't been very clear. I mean, to some extent, it has. Of course, we've seen, just like in the United States, there's been inconsistency in Israeli statements in terms of what its actual goals are, vacillating between trying to destroy and degrade Iran's nuclear and missile capabilities, and at times hinting that regime change may be a goal, or if not, perhaps an inevitable outcome of what they're doing. One sign is that today, Prime Minister Netanyahu says that Israel is close to achieving its military objectives. So perhaps that's an indication that Israel may be starting to think about winding down its operations, but the events on the ground don't seem to indicate that for the time being.
Interesting. And then I was reading that these are the first American military strikes in Iran since like 1979. What factors made President Trump decide that this was the time to go in?
Well, this is an open question that we need to look into further, but we saw that prior to the U.S. attack, there was really a debate and even divisions within the Trump administration between interventionists who wanted to see the U.S. support Israel at all costs and isolationists who were speaking very loudly and were very concerned about the U.S. being dragged into another Middle Eastern war. And somewhere along the lines, President Trump was influenced by these interventionists, by these Iran hawks and pro-Israel individuals and entities to take the position to make the final decision to strike Iran over the weekend.
What will you be looking at moving forward?
Well, I think at this point in time, analysts are really holding their breaths, not just analysts, but people that are involved in this conflict, whether or not they want to be, to see what the Iranian response is going to be. A lot of that is going to depend on what happens next, whether the Iranians really launch a large-scale response, whether it's in the Strait of Hormuz or even U.S. military assets in the region, and escalate the situation further, or whether they respond in a more limited way that may open the door for a diplomatic off-ramp moving forward.
All right, Eric Loeb, thank you so much for being with us this morning. We appreciate your insight.
Thank you.